When I was in college, I fell into a pattern. I fell into a pattern thinking that every time I went out with friends to celebrate, there was always drinking. There was always drinking involved. And so my brain just thought, if we celebrate, we drink. And we all have a different relationship with alcohol. There are people in this room who've said, no, no more, none. And some of you don't struggle with this, and some of you do. And so I just want to say grace upon grace. I have loved ones who have struggled so much with alcohol. My closest friend in middle school and high school, and we went to college together, and we graduated, and we lived together. She is no longer on this earth because she died in her 40s of alcoholism. And I've done prayer circles around rehab centers when our son was struggling with alcohol. So the struggle is real, and I understand. So I pray that this is not a trigger for you, but this is a safe place where you know that we're vulnerable and we talk about real stuff. So back to college. Celebration, alcohol. Well, fast forward, I got the wake-up call from God. I was giving thanks every day. I was in a Bible study, and we had a Christmas party. And the hostess of the mostess set the table with beautiful tablecloths and china and glasses and poured the wine. And toast after toast, my Bible friends celebrated together. And at the end of the night, we hugged each other, we loved each other, we prayed for one another, and there was a voice inside my head that said, you should sleep over. But there was another voice that said, no, you're fine. You'll read about that this week in Esther. We don't always make the best decisions when we've been drinking. So I drove home. And it wasn't far, less than 10 miles from my house to her house. But the issue is, I live up a mountain. And the road to my house, from the bottom to the top, gains 2,000 feet in elevation up a windy road. And I drove home. Thank God I made it safely. But the next morning, I got up and I looked outside, and my car was teetering on the edge of my driveway. When you live in the mountains, you know, driveway circles around, over the edge, there's no barrier, there's no boundary. I could have tumbled all the way down into the gully. I could have tumbled to my death, and I certainly could have totaled the car. So as I ran outside to quickly move my car before anyone noticed, I looked up to God and I said, oh, thank you, and I'm so sorry. And this was over 10, 12 years ago, and I still remember so vividly. I heard the voice of God, not auditory, but inside of me, recognizably. I heard, no more. Like the hand of God coming down with a line in the sand, or in my case, a line in the dirt on the driveway. No more. Not even one. And I was like, okay. And I remember that struggle became so real in that moment. You could have. You should have. And that shame that came over me was so real. And what I chose in that moment was to let the shame fall away, hold on to guilt. I was guilty, but I knew it was time to obey. And so from that day forward, I do not drive even after one glass. And I'm not throwing stones, because some of you, God has put that line in the sand in many different ways.